You know,
2 words, old school. We're just kind of old school. We just sort of do it the way we do it. What I don't like is that AI is starting to rip people's voices. I got to draw the line somewhere. You know what I mean? It's computer generated. Yeah, but somebody had to come up with the
yeah.
idea. I'm at a point now where, at least in terms of production, I do it the way I do it, and it comes out somehow. By the time it's done, it comes out sounding pretty damn good.
Do you love me? Do you need me? Can I still call you mine?
Welcome to the Greatest Music of All Time podcast again, Bill. And a pleasure to have you on, as always. And I wanted to start off by asking you about the track on the Stylistics record that Nigel kind of introduced us to, Whatever Happened to Our Love.
Yeah.
For people who, might have heard it on that or might have heard it before, it's a track that you first were working on in the 70s, right? Or in the 80s?
Maybe 80s, I think, and Nigel and I were hanging for a little while, and he remembered the song. He really liked the song when we first wrote it. And that was, it might have been like within a year of writing the song when me and Saviano wrote the tune together. And then I cut a version of it with Santa Fe before they hooked up with Fat City Horns and all that. Santa Fe was wasn't a horn band. It was, which it is now. I mean, if you go to Las Vegas, have you seen those guys at all? Santa Fe and the Fat City Horns?
But I remember you mentioning them.
Yeah, if you get to Vegas on a Monday night, they play at a place called the Copa, and it's right in the back of a restaurant out there. It's kind of going toward L.A. a little bit. It's right on Las Vegas Boulevard. It's an amazing band, unbelievably great band. Tamara and I wrote on their new album. They got a new double album out. We wrote a couple tunes on it, co-wrote a couple tunes on it. And Jerry Lopez is the guitar player, and one of the singers. And they got 4 or 5 singers, 5 or 6 horn players, all the top horn players in Las Vegas. These guys are so good that they pretty much back up any group any act that comes into Caesars, the big Caesars thing. So they've backed up Bette Midler, and backed up Celine Dion, everybody, Lady Gaga, the whole 9 yards. I mean, it's the horn section of Las Vegas. I mean, if you're playing there, and you need horns. These are the guys, So and the band is, I would say that it's breathtaking. You have to remind yourself to breathe. I mean, they're so good, and they're so powerful, so exciting. It's really a great group,
So they worked on you with
about somebody else. It's kind of the way it works with me.
So which version of it did they work on with you? The first version?
Well, I think the original, it was the original, the recording that you were aware of, and I think you kind of ended up doing sort of the same arrangement. It was, they had 3 singers in the band. It was Jerry Lopez, Lenny Lopez, and Cleto Escobedo, who's the band leader. Yeah, here's Tamara.
There.
Yeah, Cleto is the band leader for the Jimmy Kimmel Show, but he's a great singer, really good singer. So we kind of passed the ball around to all 3 singers, and then when you heard the thing, when you heard it, you went, "Oh, this would fit the Stylistics pretty nicely." So, point A went to B, went to Z.
Yeah. And so, because it's such a great song, and you've written so many songs, has the way that you write songs, because I know you wrote one with Nigel the other day, has the way that you write songs changed since the time, the original time that you wrote Whatever Happened to Our Love?
Well, I mean, and that one I co-wrote it with Saviano. We kind of got into a pretty deep progressions. I mean, it was in the era where really what differentiated tunes were different progressions. And nowadays, it seems like a lot of the same progressions are being used for different records. Somebody put a thing together, and they had the same progression on, and they played one song after another with the same progression, but all different hits for different artists, and they just put a mashup of that. So
A
it was just
whole bunch of Nashville songs
Yeah.
too. They were
yeah,
pretty much the same.
da 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 da. It was like
It was really
those,
funny.
but I mean, it's as far as writing, Tamara and I really are. We both seem to have kind of found each other. It didn't take a lot of gasoline to pull that one off.
Well, we the one we wrote in the car while we were driving. We wrote one while we were driving somewhere, Las
Yeah,
Vegas
I
or
think-
something,
Yeah.
and we just started writing this song. And
Can you
this
see-
one song is called. It was called
I was going to say, move
something.
up.
One of us, somebody said, it's just kind of at the mercy of the music, And we just wrote this. We started writing it while we were driving.
I think we were talking about Eric Clapton or something. I said, man,
Yeah.
he pretty much lives at the mercy of his music, and both of us.
And I said, get me the pad, get the paper out.
Where's the paper? Where's the pencil?
Well, so it just came to you whilst you were driving.
Yeah, we pretty much wrote most of the lyrics while we were driving.
Yeah.
By the time we got to Las Vegas, we had I wrote. It's like I wrote the words to this on my faded blue jeans. It was like you use whatever you had to write that song, to write those lyrics down when they come to you.
Yeah.
And
Well, we saw Eric Clapton. Speaking of Eric Clapton in Japan recently, we were in Japan last month and we saw him at the Buddha. So, considering that the songs just keep coming to you, do you have any recording plans coming up?
Well, we're kind of working at it. We've been working on stuff for Tamara over the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years,
just
and just putting together just a whole handful of different songs for Tamara. And I just took 2 of them and I went, here's 2 kind of R&B songs, bluesy, swampy kind of stuff. And we actually went to our drummer and Pro Tools engineer, Alan Hurst, had moved to Nashville. So we went down to Nashville. It was actually closer to Franklin. It was in Brentwood, right?
He was in Brentwood.
It's in Brentwood. And we had him play on one of them he'd already played on when he was living up here in LA, and the other one we had him do drums, and then he did mixes on 2 songs. So we're looking to do an album on Tamara at this point.
Trying to get it finished, and we've got more than enough songs. Just kind of getting each one of them right for the.
And
a lot of them are just got drum programs on them, and my normal move is to program the drums just to have something to record over without having to hire guys and coming in and doing, get into the basically the distraction of recording a full band, which is really a lot of fun. It's a great way to record, but we've kind of just for songwriting demos, I usually just end up just programming it all. And then if it seems like the song's got legs, it's going to go further than that, I'll replace the program drums with real drums. And it always opens the record up when we do that. You know what I mean?
How's LA been recently? Because the last time we were in LA, it was when half the place was on fire. So has the city been recovering? And
well, I mean, I imagine, I guess so. From what I understand, there were 400 something houses in Pacific Palisades that were taken out. More than that, thousands, I guess, in these fires in LA. And from what I understand, there's actually the city of Los Angeles, and this was about almost a year ago. The city of Los Angeles has issued 4 permits to rebuild. 4. Count them, 4. So I mean, it's just out of control. It doesn't make any sense. The leadership, the political leadership in Los Angeles is out of control. The mayor was in Africa when the fires hit.
Yeah, I did hear about that. Have you considered ever living anywhere else?
No water and there was no water in the reservoir to fight the fire.
Yeah, I heard about that too. Has anything made you think, oh, I'd rather move to a different state or something, or do you reckon we
went through that a few years back, and we got a place in right near Summerlin in Las Vegas, basically in kind of up against the mountains in Las Vegas, and we're, and I realized, man, Vegas isn't working all that well for us. So what we're planning, so we're, as a matter of fact, right now we're in escrow selling the house in Vegas. So we're not sure what we're going to do. We've got a really great, I mean, you've been to my house here in LA. It's really comfortable. It's a great place to live. I do a lot of work up in the guest house, as does my son Will. And it's just it's a great place to be once you're inside the gate. But once you're out on Ventura Boulevard and driving around and everything, LA is kind of a mess. Just the whole state of California is kind of a mess. I mean, the gasoline prices, there's certain areas of the United States that are under $2 a gallon. LA is still at $4.50 per gallon. Yeah,
it is a crazy situation.
Really a giant difference, and it's just California has just added such high taxes to everything.
When do you think LA started to go downhill?
Pardon me?
When do you think LA and like California started to go downhill? Was it like 10, 15 years ago or something?
Well, I mean, that's, politically, California started, I mean, it's as far as voter fraud, it's ground zero for voter fraud in the United States. This is where it was all thought up, and it's just, it's a one party state. And 90% of the time when that happens, you're just going downhill. So it's been, I think LA, just especially in terms of homelessness, it's probably really started sliding more than the normal business. It probably started sliding a good little while ago. I'd say probably 15 years ago, and it's just been going downhill ever since.
Do you find that other people in the music industry share your frustrations with the way that LA and the way that California's got, or do some people think everything's fine?
Well, I mean, people that are on top of it, to tell you the truth, I don't even really know. We've kind of hidden ourselves at some level. I don't really hang out with the musicians that much. I mean, I hadn't seen Nigel in years, and we started hanging out. And that's when I met you and ran into you. I used to be, I did a lot of sessions in this town for a long, long time, just doing, the vocal, ensemble vocal arrangements and vocal dates. And that was then, and this is now. There's most of the studios have closed. People have studios in their houses.
Well, the record plant where we were working on the Stylistics thing closed down. Well, you were there the last day.
Boy, what a drum sound in there, huh? Oh man.
Yeah, it sounded great.
Well, Nigel's drum sounded just amazing in that room.
But it's such a shame that so many of the great studios have gone. And also there are so many people around who used to do a lot of sessions like yourself. Everybody who created this great music, a lot of people are still around, and it doesn't seem like there's the same scene that there was in terms of everybody collaborating with each other.
No, not as much of a connection and stuff. I mean, there's people that do almost all the drum dates. John Robinson, JR probably does most of the drum dates. JR and Vinny Caliuto are probably the two guys that do most of the drum dates on any sessions that are full. We gotta hire the A team. Bring in the guys, bring in the cats. Mike Landau probably does a good portion of the guitar work on almost all the stuff that's out here. I mean, there's Mike Landau and who's the guitar player?
Dean Park.
Well, Dean,
the one you can't remember the name.
No, the other, Michael Thompson does a lot of dates. I mean, there's a handful of cats that do, on different instruments. That there's probably 4 or 5 guys that do all the work.
Tim Pierce used to do tons of records, and
Jim, I don't think wants to play anymore.
I kind of retired. He teaches online. He has an online teaching scene that's just been really great for him.
Really? Yeah, I saw him on. Do you both watch the Rick Beato YouTube channel?
The which?
Rick Beato. Have you heard of him?
Oh, I've heard of him. Everybody talks about him a lot. Man, you ought to do an interview with him. Well, I haven't been asked, so there you go.
Well, I'm sure he would do a good interview with you. But
Yeah.
he's got a YouTube channel, but but Tim Pierce was on the YouTube channel, and they were both saying, yeah, there's no point in like making music anymore. You should just have a YouTube channel instead. And it's like, well, I mean, we didn't all get into music through YouTube channels. We got into music because of great songs and great records. So,
Really good.
do both of you or either of you use AI a lot in your lives?
No.
I'm quite relieved to hear that. So you don't kind of use that chat GPT?
You write songs the old-fashioned way. You got
Oh no, I'm not saying I doubted already that you used it for music, but just in general, do you use it at all?
well, not really.
If I knew how to use it better, I would. I don't want to pay for an app to do it. I've got Chat GPT and Grok and all that stuff, but I haven't really gotten into it enough to. I mean, I might ask it a question, but I don't have it, design something for me or put some, create something. And anything you do, it seems like, I was about to do a logo with it, and it seems like you got to pay for all that stuff to really process it.
You do.
So,
And then a lot of the stuff, it's like it seems like a bit of a faff.
I didn't know which one to actually buy, so.
Well, I mean, let's just take it to another thing. If you look at some of the movies that are being made out there, they go, "Oh, this is computer generated." Yeah, but somebody had to come up with the idea. There was an artist somewhere who said, "I want this spaceship to look kind of like this," and then the computer helps them build that. But somebody had to come up with the original idea, and I think the same thing holds true with AI. You want to write a song, for instance. We got to kind of start it yourself, and then AI will kind of come in and help you with this, that, or the other thing. What I don't like is that AI is starting to rip people's voices.
I mean, AI will be able to do music quicker than films. It might be able to do both eventually.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, would it put you off if
Pardon?
you were listening to the radio and you heard a song, you're like, that's a great song. That sounds like a good voice.
Yeah.
Put you off listening to it if you found out after, oh, that's all computers.
Two words, old school. We're just kind of old school. We just sort of do it the way we do it. And at this point in the game, I don't really pay a lot of attention to how this other guy does this record or this other guy does this record or anything like that. I just do it the way I do it, and I don't even pay attention to whether it's good or not. I just do. I mean, I'm at a point now where, at least in terms of production, I do it the way I do it. And it comes out somehow, by the time it's done, it comes out sounding pretty damn good,
Yeah, I mean, well,
and not too slick. My stuff I've never been accused of being too terribly slick. I guess serious blues guys consider me sort of slick, but
you were involved in some pretty slick records like Chicago 16 and 17.
Oh yeah.
And
that was a lot of that's David Foster. I mean, he's the classic example of slick. Now, what's the definition of slick? Foster. Well, how slick is Take One? He's just highly talented and an unbelievably great piano player.
Did on some of those more kind of, because there are some songs on those records that still have kind of not necessarily bluesy vocals, but you're definitely going for it, and it's not slick in that way, like Follow Me or Sonny Think Twice, those type of songs. Did Foster give you a lot of direction in terms of how to sing on those type of songs?
Not really. I mean, he knows, David kind of, when I was working with David on my own records and on Chicago's records, I mean, he knew what my forte is. I mean, I started off as a blues singer, and you can still tell that's what's going on. I mean, I haven't recorded a lot of blueses. One of the few that I did record was the theme for the TV show In the Heat of the Night. I mean, that's been playing in people's living rooms for 35 years. In the heat of the night, that whole thing. I mean, it was originally a Ray Charles record with a Sidney Poitier, Rod Steiger movie,
Mm.
and I think in 1962. It's a Quincy Jones, Marilyn Bergman song, and we, somebody asked me to come in and take a shot at the vocal for the TV show, and I did. And the TV show I think was on NBC for 4 years, and then went to CBS for 3 years, and it's been in syndication forever.
And was that credited just under your name?
Pardon me?
Was the track from that credited under your name?
Yeah.
Cool, because it's not on. Well, it's not on your top played ones on like Spotify, I don't think. But
I don't even know. I mean, it was right at the beginning of the TV show. It's basically one verse of In the Heat of the Night, which is that great Quincy Jones, Marilyn Bergman song.
I want to check it out. So if blues and I mean obviously R&B were your influences, Tamara, how did you get into singing? Were your influences similar to Bill's?
Well, I think so. I was in Houston, and I was, I was singing there, and I was doing a lot of jazz and R&B things, and then I just kind of got bored with that and started doing rock bands and stuff like that, and then I ended up being an urban cowboy singing, because I sang in the sessions in Houston, and one of the studios happened to be Mickey Gilley's studio, where we would do jingles and things like that. And he asked me to be in the movie, to sing with him in the movie. And so after doing that, I just figured, I've done so much stuff and I saved all my money. Maybe I should just go out to LA and see what's going on. And I did. And I met Bill and about 1,000 relatives that I have here. Yeah. I thought I was really getting away from it all, I met all my relatives, and I met Bill about 3 weeks after I moved here, and we've been together ever since. And so I was just, I sang on everything I could imagine singing on, I mostly listened to Southern's, rock and Aretha Franklin and Gladys Knight and Tina Turner and James Brown and Otis Redding. And that was, that kind of, we were really close to Memphis when I was growing up. So that's what we heard, and Allman Brothers and things like that. So I just sang it, anything I could,
Well, so you've got quite pretty similar influences then. I mean, it's that great.
Well, it wasn't the same journey by any means, but
definitely not.
But yeah, in Houston, I grew up in Houston, and I started singing there, and it was really a good place to sing in a club and make a living at the time, because it was kind of in that oil boom where there was tons of business everywhere. And so the bands were playing all the time, and then I started singing in little jazzier clubs and smaller, little more intimate things where you could do what you wanted to do, or those kind of things. And but there wasn't the creative space like where you write your own songs and come up with a band and do that. It wasn't quite that creative space in Houston. They had it in Austin. That was happening in Austin. But to make a living, you worked in Houston, and so
Houston was about the live scene then.
It was a live scene, but it was more of a cover band scene too.
Yeah.
And things like that. So
you moved to LA to get involved with the recording.
Yeah, and I did a lot of recording in Houston, but it was, it was backgrounds and, BJ Thomas records and Freddie Fender things and like that, and stuff like that. So when I moved to Houston, to LA, I was just kind of working all the time here too, but it wasn't in a live scene, which was kind of hard to imagine, when you kind of get your momentum from working live, and then you got to just transfer it over to being in the studio. It's a little different.
Next thing you know, you're wearing
Headphones all the time.
You know? So I got a headache. Why? Because I've had my head in a winch all day long.
Yeah, and then and one of the first bands original kind of band I was in was Heat with Tom Saviano.
Oh yeah.
And, yeah, so that was one of the first bands I was in, and then
in LA.
Yeah, in LA.
When was that? When was that record recorded? Was it 1979 or 1980?
Well, that was
around then.
They had already recorded that original record, and after that, I started singing with them. It was Nathan East and
Ed Green was playing the drums.
Ed Green and Paul Jackson Jr.
Yeah,
and we were all playing gigs, and I think it was after the record.
You and Carmen and Joe Pizzullo singing.
Yeah, we all
3 singers in front.
Don't say the head record.
couple of Italians and Tamara. And then Saviano, he used basically all of
really good horn players.
Gary Grant and all the horn players that you've read their names 150,000 times on records, and that was Heat was a pretty powerful group.
Yeah, it was really fun and really strong band, and we played, maybe once a week, I think,
did the
in
jib
town, and then we had one band together, didn't we? We were playing a lot with you and me and Carmen, and we were all playing it.
Was that when you first start working together? Or did you?
Tamara and I were first together. She wasn't really a writer at that point. She was just, really just a singer and doing vocals and stuff. And then she started doing some vocals for a really good friend of ours, Bruce Geitch. You hip to Bruce? Great guitar player.
Well, I was recording and writing with Tom, and then Bruce Geitch came in and started giving me a track to write on.
Yeah. So Bruce was throwing her what he calls kernels. Here's a track. He had a little 8-track scene in his garage.
Yeah, he'd give me a cassette, and I would write a song.
And then she'd go back and record it. So, Bruce kind of gave Tamara her start as a co-writer. And after a little while, I just kind of looked around, and she looked. I said, Tamara, what do you think of this? Maybe I could do this with this song. And the next thing you know, we're co-writing together. So that's kind of the team that we put together. We had to go all the way around the block to find each other.
Yeah, and sometimes other people come in and make, connect you in a different way that you hadn't done before.
Before. And in terms of playing live, there's some early footage of you performing together in what's the name of the movie where you're in you're in a ski resort?
Oh, that's the Alan Thicke.
What was it called? I forget what it was. Jim Carrey was in it. And it was.
Rita Coolidge and I were singing because I had been on the Rita, and she was doing one of the spots, and but we ended up singing together on Sarah. Right, we were both like in our fur coats, where freezing.
It was cold out there
outside, but it was so much fun. It was what was it called? That ski resort? Club Med.
You did Club take Med. It uptown as well. Oh, it was Club Med. Yeah. You did take it uptown as well, but it's just so great because it's like back in the era when even with a big movie like that, like you could tell people are just playing the music live, whereas now in a movie, even with a live music scene, it would just be so contrived and it would sound that way. Whereas it just generally sounded like you were playing like a live set on a mountain.
Yeah, it was a little looser, and I don't think there was a giant budget on that movie. It was just one of Alan's things. Alan Thicke is really
and we thought we were going on a vacation just to go play and everything. Next thing we know, it's a movie. It's one of those things that's like, we kind of got the Randy Quaid treatment, I believe. We never realized it was a movie until we found it in the stores,
Really?
But, well, and it was fun though. We had a great weekend and a great little trip, and it was fun.
It sounds better for being properly live and not overly polished like all the stuff that you see today. Like
I personally like polished, But and at the same time, I'm not a real fan of lip syncing. I was never
Well,
very
that's
good at
what I mean by polished, though. Like
it.
it's good to sound great live and to not make mistakes, but
Yeah.
but at the same by the same logic, it's
Well, I mean, live, I've always thought one of the most important people in the band was the front of house mixer, the engineer. If he gets a good mix, then he's as important as the guitar player or the drummer in a lot of ways.
Do you consider like keys instruments your first instrument or guitar, or are you about the same level?
I started playing piano when I was about 3 or 4. My mom got me into it. I remember my piano teacher. I was reading little bits of music before I was reading English. You know what I mean? And then at some point in the game, I gave up reading and just went, I'm going to play it all by ear. I think my mom said, there's this other kid that I know, and he just plays by ear. And I just went, oh, okay. Well, I'm going to be in competition with that. So I stopped reading music. I mean, it was the worst thing she could have done, because if I had that chop now, I'd be using it. You know what I mean?
Do you think it's very useful for pop and rock and R&B, whatever? Do you still think it's that useful to read?
The guys whose names you see on all the albums are all readers.
Really?
They
Session.
Everyone, professional, like Steve Lukather is a great reader. David Page is a great reader. David Foster is a great reader. Foster used to go do, when I first met him, he'd go on Saturday mornings, he'd go do Ronald McDonald things just to keep his reading chops up. Ronald McDonald, really some hard music to play. It just kept him active in the reading world.
Do you think all of those guys can still read today?
Pardon me?
Do you think all of those guys can still read music today?
Oh, yeah, they all, but they don't. It's like riding a bike. They say that it never goes away. It goes away. If I got on a bicycle right now, I'd crash it in 5 feet. I'd fall over 5 feet. And it's the same thing holds true. I mean, there's points where I've had to read, and I kind of know what it is. I'm just not. You really do it well if you do it all the time.
And do you think, like, because obviously those guys were involved with so much great stuff, and you played on a lot and sang on a lot of the same records in the 70s, 80s, right?
Yeah.
But let's look at the guys producing pop chart hits today, your Andrew Watts or whatever. Do you think a lot of the producers of today can read music still, and that the scene?
I couldn't tell you. All I know is that at this point of the game, the champions of hit records are usually the producer before the artist.
Today?
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at that the funk song that Bruno Mars did. It was what's his name? Ronson?
Mark Ronson.
Yeah. I mean, he's the power behind that record, not so much. I mean, the singer at some point in the game, the singer is just one track. Who does the rest of it? And usually you find it's the producer.
Although Bruno Mars must be towards the more musical and talented of today's pop stars. There's some you get the impression that they're nothing more than a pretty face or a palatable vocal.
There's a lot of that, but guess what? There's always been a lot of that.
Yeah. It's no different.
I don't think it's ever really changed. I mean, like female singers, the era of Rosemary Clooney kicking butt on everybody, or Ella Fitzgerald or Sarah Vaughan. That era is long past. There's a lot of singers out there that I listen to them. I go, well, yeah, okay, this is good.
Yeah. Nothing.
And it's always about the singer and the song. And this day and age, you can make the singer better than the singer is with toys. And I think this AI is gonna play into what started with auto tune. AI is gonna come. It's gonna go deeper, way deeper than that.
Yeah. Well, do you think people are gonna be programming in their voices to sound a bit coarse deliberately, or, you know,
Yeah.
doing all of that type of thing. Is there anybody?
You know, if you get a telephone call and you answer it, if you don't know who it is, they could be recording your voice. Next thing you know, that voice is doing a voiceover or doing something else, and it's mine, but I'm not getting paid for anything.
Well, be careful to neither of you to sing down the phone next
Tell me about it.
time someone
You
calls.
know, I mean, it's just I realized that, like, when MTV first started to happen, all of a sudden I went, in some ways, music would get, say you just get just a regular listener, and you'd hear the music, and that listener would build something up in his mind. Now you got videos, and that's what you're going to see. One other guy's vision of what that music does.
It minimizes the sound and the music.
Yeah. And then
Because
at some point of the game
because the visual takes
yeah,
over.
and at some point up to that point, I mean, look at the Grateful Dead. Jerry Garcia is not a tall, skinny, good-looking, you know, but he was one of the biggest rock stars in the history of the world. And he was, you know, had video been involved in it early on, that would have never happened.
The bands wouldn't have been the big bands of the 60s and 70s, potentially, or some of them.
Yeah, I mean, look at Leslie West and Mountain and some of those other things. These guys are not tall, skinny, Boz Scaggs-looking guys. You know, they were really good-looking, you know, artists and stuff like that. And MTV, I think videos and stuff like that kind of, it's sort of, at some level, it put the visual artist into the ball game after the music was already done.
And
And I think at that point of the game, you kind of have some funny things going on. People start seeing it, and then all of a sudden, you know, the next thing you know, here's MTV. Suddenly, there's 3 stars: Michael Jackson, Prince, and Madonna. Bam! You got 3 stars, and if you're not one of those 3 stars, it's not going to happen. Look at all the female singers that are out there now. They're all really cute. There's a lot of cute singers out there, but it doesn't necessarily mean
That's what happens when you're 18, 19. You're cute.
You're cute. Yeah.
But
a lot of music is done, you know, I mean,
some of the gigs aren't live though, which is you know, sad to witness. But I guess, you know, in the era of a camera phone, you just, like, if you're that famous, you can't really afford to sing out of tune, so you just have to mime. Have you been in any situations professionally where you've had people saying, like, can you mime, or can you sing to a backing track, or can you play to track?
Every band that's out there playing, especially big shows, usually is running Pro Tools. Usually they've got maybe the vocal parts put on Pro Tools that play. I mean, every band, you know, I mean, I don't think there's a band out there that's not doing this. This is stuff that Milli Vanilli took a lot of heat for, but this is stuff that everybody does anymore. And it makes their shows, it makes them sound a lot better. It makes them sound a lot slicker, and it fattens up the vocals. A lot of times they'll have the horn parts on there too, so that when they play the horns live, they're doubled.
So is that the case with the vocals?
They're probably doubled. Yeah. So I mean, and it's just become kind of a normal thing. I don't. There's parts of that I don't really like that much. I don't like the whole idea of in-ear monitors very much. I think that you're missing a lot of stuff. I mean, when I did in-ears for about a year before I bailed out of Chicago, and it's like I'd set the guitar level for his rhythm parts, but sometimes I'd miss a really great solo because if his solo is really loud, I've got his volume set at a rhythm level. So I don't really hear his solo as well as if I was just listening out front with wedges.
Do both of you use wedges now?
I do.
You use wedges. What about you, Tamara? Do you use in-ears or wedges?
Wedges, but I do like to have in-ears. I really like them. especially on a big stage. I think they're really useful, and they really help you focus, and not get overwhelmed by the volume, because I can get drowned out pretty easy. A lot of, or I can over sing and be done, like way sooner than I would like to be.
Yeah. Well, and in a lot of ways,
you know,
that's something that a lot of guys have put together.
but I like both.
Yeah, I've always thought that, like for instance, bass, Jason, for the time that I was using the in-ear monitors, he was using a pod. He wasn't even going through an amplifier. And it was going into everybody's ears, and everybody could hear the bass. The problem was, if you could hear the bass, you can't hear the pitch. So whenever I was singing, I would pull one of them out a little bit so that I could hear pitch, but I'd lose the bottom. So I mean, every way of listening, especially on stage and live, every way has its good sides and bad sides. I grew up with monitors, and it's something about pitch. You have in-ears, you have them just a little louder than you should have them. You're taking a chance on damage. Because, I mean, outdoors, far from your eardrums.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people say that it's better for hearing, though, to use in-ears.
Pardon me?
A lot of people say it's better for your hearing to use in-ears as opposed to wedges, and that wedges will
Well, that's the hype.
Well, I think it's
if you want to get a groove, you find yourself turning them up.
Yeah.
If you find yourself turning them up, you're taking a chance on damage.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You want to try to get that thing that we used to get.
I think we all have that damage already.
Yeah. Huh?
Do you both find that these days you're turning up? Like turning up wedges and turning up in-ears, of turning up. From being involved in the music industry, do you feel like you've lost a bit of hearing?
Oh yeah, I've lost. I mean,
Which one is it? This one?
Yeah.
My right one?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I can feel it. I can tell when I'm, listening to music or the TV at night, because I sleep on one side and then I go on the other side. I hear a lot more on.
It sounds different. Yeah.
I hear a lot more on one side than the other. Yeah.
Well, I haven't noticed with either of you though that you've lost some of your hearing, because I must confess, some people who've been in the music industry for a bit, like especially working with them on the Stylistics thing, sometimes you're saying something to them and they're like, "What was that?" And you really have to end up like nearly shouting it to some people, like Davey from Elton's band. He really seems like maybe the guitars have knocked his hearing out a little bit.
I bet you anything he probably had his Marshalls stacked up, so it's going directly into his. I've never had a guitar amp that was bigger than my knees. I was use small combo amps and try to run the thing down under my, so I can hear it, but it's not facing right at me. There's, when I played with the Sons, my guitar player liked how he sounded with his amp far away from him. So he'd put it right behind me.
Nice.
But I need to have it up, which means it was right at the level of my ears. And he would play a solo, and this was Terry Haggerty. He's a monstrous guitar player. But liked how it sounded far away from him, but except it wasn't far away from me. He ended up causing me some serious damage. At some point in the game, I went, no, this ain't gonna work. You can't put your amp right behind my ears. It's just not gonna work.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to protect your hearing above all else. So,
yeah. Well, that's why I really believe in Soundchecks. Make sure that you get it so that so that you can get your monitors and you can get your playback on stage, so it's not really loud, but it's full. Which
do you sound check every show? Do you do a long sound check every time?
Say it again.
Do you do a long sound check before every show?
Yes.
I like to,
because some people don't sound check at all.
I let each person talk to the monitor guy, and everybody else has to shut up while that's happening. So the monitor guy's not getting 5 people saying, "I need to be louder, I need to be down." If each guy gets his shot with the monitor engineer,
gets his turn,
whether it's the front guy or the guy that over on the side of the stage.
Is that quite a well established routine for you now? Is it the same?
Well, it's the
Yes.
way I do it, and
Right.
I think a lot of people do it that way. I was out actually with Michael Langton one time, and I was doing a handful of shows with him, and his engineer came up and he ran the sound check the same way I do,
Hmm.
and just really good engineer,
Yeah.
and we got through sound check like that because everything was really disciplined. When I had started doing sound checks when I was, quite a bit younger, we'd look at sound check as a way to, oh, hey, we can jam now. No, you're not jamming. You're setting up your materials so that you can hear it correctly on stage. And if you have that time to do that, it's worth it. I don't play enough gigs to where I just walk in with the same engineer. And even within ears, you can do that. You over a period of 4 or 5 gigs, you got your whole sound dialed in, and he's got the same board and everything just done. And that's kind of the way bands that are on the road on a regular basis usually do it. They've already got it. They're starting with the mix they had last night.
Yeah. So it's a
500 miles away, and at some point in the game, eventually you really tweak it and dial it into where you really like it, and then you just say keep that.
Yeah.
And even with new mixers and everything like that, I'll do a sound check and I say, this is going to be one of those set it and leave it gigs. You set it and leave it. If you want to sing quieter, pull back. If you want to sing louder, pull up. Your distance from the microphone to your mouth is like a slide pod.
Yeah, don't give the sound guy too much to do.
Because I always played with bands with horns. I mean, I had, a couple of guitar players, a couple of keyboard players, 3 horn players, drums, and singers. There's a lot of stuff up there. You gotta, once you get it, leave it. You know what I mean?
Would you have, because speaking of groups that have the same sound figured out every night, would either of you have the, desire, or do you reckon you'd be able to cope with, because I'm saying this after being jaded after doing such a long tour, would you ever see yourself wanting to do like a huge tour again? So if someone said to you, I want to do like 80 dates this year, you'd go, yeah.
Sure.
It's a way to
Really?
it sounded good. I know even with the Sons, we don't play very often, but I mean, sometimes we'll do 3 gigs in a row, and usually by the 3rd gig, we're smoking, just burning, because by that time we've got all the arrangements dialed in. There's a point when we just added a new bass player into the band this last year, a guy named Dwayne Pate, who's amazing. I mean, he actually moved to Italy. He lives in Italy, but if there's a Suns gig, he gets on a plane, comes over and plays it.
Wow.
Unbelievably great bass player,
Was he the guy based out in Naples?
It could be, yeah. I think he is.
Because Debs and I got married near Naples. It was about an hour outside of Naples.
Oh, cool.
And we just, when the tour finished, we went back to see the church and everything, and to go to Naples. I mean, the food is so good out there. I don't blame your bass player for living out.
Well, he likes it over there, that's for sure. I mean, and he's just an amazingly great musician, good guy. Big Suns fan, used to love the band, when he was a kid, and he just, for him, and we've got Bill Gibson, who was the drummer with Huey Lewis and the News, playing drums, and I've known Bill since he was in high school, since he was a kid. I mean, it's with that band and that material, I don't even do my hits with those guys. I don't do After the Love Is Gone. I don't do Turn Your Love Around with the Sons. I do Sons material mostly, or whatever covers we've decided to do. I think we've got one solo song that we do. Oh, First and Last.
Mm-hmm.
Was on a solo album, but it's really kind of ended up being a big Suns song.
Yes. The Sons play their own music, and their audience comes for that.
Yeah.
And that's,
I mean,
it's its own little thing. And ask musicians guys from, Columbus, Ohio, they go, oh, the Sons were great. We still play.
Yeah,
You
some
know.
some people when you say your name will say Sons of Champlin, and they won't talk about your solo or
They
even
don't even know
Chicago
it's
first.
Yeah.
So many people had no idea that Bill from the Sons of Champlin had been in Chicago for over 20 years, almost 30 years.
Yeah, I walked into Gruden's Guitar on Broadway in Nashville, and the guy, one of the guys at the cash register, comes over and says, you could win a Bill Champlin lookalike contest pretty easily. And I said, well, yeah, that's because that's who I am. He said, wow, where you been? And he had just been that weekend. He had just been to a Chicago show and didn't realize it was me.
Oh, right. What
He had
he'd literally seen you on stage with them.
Yeah, and he was like, oh, man, I miss the Sons. I miss your singing and stuff like that. I just sang one of the biggest hits Chicago's ever had, and he didn't realize it was the same guy that he grew up with watching the Sons. And people are like that. They don't get a lot. There's some people that still think Peter Cetera sings with Chicago. He hadn't been in a band for over 20 years.
When did he leave? He left in the 90s, did he?
He lives in, I think, Utah.
But he left
Parks.
Chicago in the 90s. Or was it in the 80s?
Oh, 85.
85.
85. Oh, it was after those.
Right after a gig in Puerto Rico, he said, that's it. I'm done. I'm out of here.
Really?
And
What
then
happened?
he started doing, I just didn't had enough. He didn't really get along with those guys very much. I get along with them great. I mean, we're pretty good friends. We don't see him a lot. I mean, we live 1,000 miles away from each other, but he's really an amazingly good singer. I mean, that's a singular sounding voice. You hear two notes, you know who it is.
Well, both of you in the group it was a good combination. I mean,
It's pretty awesome.
hard habit to break is probably, that's probably the pinnacle of where the group went. I would say. I mean,
Well, me and Jason did kind of the same thing with "Will You Still Love Me." I mean, I had some lines in that were "Got a lot of love and I don't want to let it go" with Jason, and we get along. We get along great. We work together pretty much all the time.
yeah, he's an amazing singer.
He's been working like crazy. His career is screaming right now. It's just doing well.
Really?
And I'm happy for him.
So what's he doing? Is he doing his own stuff, or is he
Pretty much. Yeah. Well, not even so much his own stuff, but he's doing the Chicago hits. He's doing some other stuff. He was just out with Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Yeah.
And the guitar, the other guy that he's been working with was the singer from
Rascal Flatts?
From Boston.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, not the original singer, but the guy who replaced the original
And
singer.
then he
in
has
Boston.
another band with the bass player from Rascal Flatts.
Yeah, with Jay DeMarcus.
With Jay DeMarcus. So he's just got his
Chris
finger-
Rodriguez is in that band.
He's in so many. He's got a network. He's working hard.
You're doing a gig with him in Chicago, right?
Yeah, we're doing one thing. We do some stuff together. I mean, on my new solo album, which ain't that new, it's a couple of years old. Jason and I did a duet. We wrote one together, and when it came time for me to do an album, I just called him up and said, "Hey, man, you mind if I put this tune on the record?" He said, "Sure, let's do it. Let's go fix it up a little bit. Because a demo sometimes you just bang it off. You know what I mean? It has a few little rough edges that you want to fix." And although sometimes I like to keep the rough edges. I mean, when I did my version of "Turn Your Love Around," I just finished stacking all these backgrounds on it. Stacking means I'm doing all the parts, tenor, alto, soprano parts. And I was about ready to go into dinner and out of the studio, and my engineer said, "Hey, throw a lead vocal down on this thing real quick, just so I have landmarks, so I can, if I'm mixing or if I'm doing any work on it, I know where the song is." I said, "Okay." So I did one pass, and then when it came time to mix the record, I put it up and I went, "Oh my God, I never sang this." I didn't, this is just a scratch. And I listened to it and I went, hell with it, leave it, and it's okay. I mean, it's not the best, I probably could have really gone in and tweaked a little, I'm going to tweak this.
Probably had the best energy doing it like that, though.
Some ways it was just like, okay, I'm just banging one off and here it goes. Here's how it goes. And at that point of the game, I had just finished doing all these background vocals. So my pitch center was pretty well locked in. So lead vocal was just a matter of trying to enunciate so this doesn't all sound like garbled garbage,
Are you still in touch with your co-writer on that tune and on After Love Is Gone, Mr. Jay Graydon?
I talk to Jay occasionally. I don't see Luke at all. And then I ran into David Foster a couple of years ago. I went to one of his, Jay and I and Tamara and Jay's girlfriend all went over to see David Foster live, which was cool. And JR was playing drums, and he had a bass player and a utility keyboard player who did all the strings and horns and stuff. And David on piano on a handful of singers. There was one singer that was singing with him, this girl named Shalea. Have you ever heard of her?
No.
Oh, boy, find that woman. I mean, she was kind of working with the Quincy Jones people, I mean, I think Dirty Loops is with that same group of people, like a stable of artists, and this girl Shalea, wow.
She's amazing.
She's amazing
piano player, singer.
And then I said to Foster, I said, she's got to be one of the best singers on the earth. He said, wait till you hear her play piano. She plays circles around me.
But also it was Catherine McPhee, his wife,
yeah,
who's an amazing singer, just a beautiful,
great,
incredible singer.
Yeah.
And Pia Toscana. So he had these three girls and another guy singing who I don't know his name.
He did all the opera
He
stuff.
did, he did like the Bocelli things.
But where was this?
This was in
Thousand Oaks.
Ah, right, yeah.
Yeah, there's that PAC, or Performing Arts Center right there.
Oh, yeah, we played in that. We played the Bank of America.
Yeah.
It's a great room.
That was very nice. Yeah.
Yeah, we went and heard Bonnie Raitt there one time, and the band sounded just wonderful. When Mike Finnegan was playing with her at some point in the game. Are you aware of who he was?
Mike Finnegan. Yeah, I mean, the name rings a bell.
He actually had played
Amazing.
on Jimi Hendrix records.
Yeah, he played on
Axis Bold as Lead.
Rainy Day, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, he played on that.
No,
album.
it wasn't on Axis. It was on.
Wasn't that album?
What's the next album after that?
Oh,
The one they named the studio after. I don't know. Whatever it is, Mike was one of the best organ players and one of the best singers on the earth. That's how good Mike Finnegan is. Look him up. Just Google him.
He spent a lot of time with Crosby, Stills, and Nash playing with them on the road.
All right.
And
he was with Joe Cocker for a long time.
Yeah, he's just
played with Bonnie
and Etta James. He was quite a.
Him and Jimmy Pugh were with Etta. They called them the Twin Towers. They're both really tall guys. Mike was one of the all-time greats. Just amazingly great singers. Just Google him, pull him up, and you'll just go, "Oh, wow, dig this guy."
Amazing.
He just passed away about, I want to say 4 years ago. Just amazing singer and organ player. What an organ player he is! Just wonderful.
Passed away a few years ago.
Yeah.
Played on all sorts of stuff, though. I mean, I've heard a lot of the things that he's played on.
Yeah.
So I wanted to finish off by asking you both, because it's an inspiration to a lot of people, your careers, but also what's nice is that you love working together, because some people don't. Some married people don't relish working together. My parents probably couldn't work together without a blazing row starting. So, although Debs and I can, so it's all different. What is the track of each other's that you like the best, so people can check out? Because some people listening to this interview may not know every single track that you guys have been involved with. So, Bill, what's your favorite music that Tamara's been involved with? And Tamara, same for Bill.
Well, Tamara did and they called it a demo. She cut it in Nashville, wrote it with Dennis Murkowski and Michael Caruso. It's called "I'm Not Your Lover," which turned out to be just beautiful. And I cut a version of it
with the Sons.
on a Sons record, and it's still one of my favorite songs that she's been involved with over the years. Something like that. And then the new one is,
I think I like "Here's Where Your Love Belongs" the most of yours. And they're some of the most just soulful, sexy songs he's ever done, and that they were Sons tracks that he did, and they're just really beautiful.
Well, I'm going to listen to both now. I hope that we'll get to. Hope we'll get to see you both when we're in California and LA for a longer period, and let us know if you end up making.
Singers playing with you guys?
Do we have what?
Background singers.
Well, not at the moment. I'm just doing 2 solo shows in America, but I'd love it if you sang with us when we do a band show in America. That'd be awesome.
That'd be really fun.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
That really would be amazing.
There in a big way. I mean, if we're not working on something,
that would be fun.
If we're not doing something, if we're not on the other side of the country.
I actually got to sing on Elton's what was it? The Fox record.
Yeah.
The Heels of the Wind. And
did you? I like that. I like that song, and it does have very good background vocals on it.
And another song, and I can't remember what that one was, but I remember Heels of the Wind.
There was 2 albums that he did where he was away from Rocket Records. I think it was on Geffen. I mean, me and Max Carl and Nigel and Dee were singing on Little Genie.
21 at 33.
Yeah.
Because I think you were mentioning you sang on Little Genie, which is a great tune. I always keep meaning to do that one, but we never got to add in any ones on the last tour because we were
that one I think also it was like a little bit strange for him because he was using Rhodes instead of a big piano.
Yeah.
So it had a little bit more of a kind of a West Coasty kind of feel to it, that record. Mostly because the Fender Rhodes as compared to the a grand piano.
And it had a great sax solo on it as well. I don't know who did that, but it's whoever it was.
Paul Horn.
But thank you anyway for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Give Debs my love, would you?
Deb sends her love to both of you. And see you soon, and enjoy the gig at the end of this month.
Cool.
All right, take care. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Do you sometimes struggle to get up in the morning or wind down for bed at night? I used to find it so difficult. I woke up with no sense of positivity and brightness. I was void of motivation and spirit. This changed completely when I started waking up with a Lumi body clock. These incredible devices mimic the light and colour of a real sunrise and sunset, transforming the experience of waking up and going to sleep completely. Rather than being suddenly woken up with an alarm clock, the Lumi body clock will wake you up gradually with a natural sunrise. The Lumi body clock has been shown to improve the quality of sleep and awakening and to boost mood and productivity in clinical trials. You can personalise your sunrise and sunset from 15 to 90 minutes with their clinically tested unique natural light and more than 20 sleep and wake sounds. We all deserve to sleep well and to wake up feeling fresh. So if you're finding this a challenge and you want to try a new approach, go to lumi.com